Hey, what's up people, it's TTC. Today we're going to have a look at the vintage collection Mandalorian Super Commando, the Deathwatch Airborne Trooper and Bo Katan Kryze. This is just my tiny little collection of Mandalorian characters. No Din Djarin here because he is overhyped. Now these two male Mandos here are basically the same figure, just different paint apps and whatnot. But even so, I actually think these are probably two of the coolest 3 3/4 figures that I actually own. And surprisingly, they're even better than the 6-inch versions of these characters. But because of that, we'll have a look at those two together towards the end, which means ladies first, so let's crack on and have a look at Bo Katan. So here she is, Bo Katan, and this is obviously the live-action version of her from The Mandalorian. Personally, as a Clone Wars collector myself, I would have actually liked to have seen the animated version of her in the figure form. Surprisingly, they never actually made one of her. But that's not to take away from this figure because man, they did a really good job with this one. I mean, no figure is perfect, but they did such a good job with all the sculpt and the paint on this. I mean, just look at her. I did at one point have the 6-inch Black Series version of this, and it's basically the exact same thing, just sort of shrunk down a little bit. Sometimes, you know, when you do that, you lose a little bit of quality, but I don't think so here. I mean, I'm still more of a 6-inch collector at heart, but credit where credit's due, they absolutely knocked these 3 figures out of the park, especially this one. This sort of shiny gunmetal silvery paint they chose for all the Beskar armor pieces is, it's just so good, isn't it? Tell me that doesn't look like metal. Now the helmet sculpt on this is sort of maybe where it falls down just a little bit for me. I mean, it's definitely still really good and you can tell who it's meant to be, but it's kind of just a bit pinched, squished a little bit, I don't know. Looks a bit too thin and a bit too tall, to be honest. I mean, it's painted nicely though. I love all the Night Owl design work and all the scratches and dings. Now, I don't know if this rangefinder is actually supposed to be articulated. I mean, it looks like it with that circle going round it. You could easily fit a hinge in there, but it doesn't move at all. I tried it and I completely bent it and it's got all those stress marks. Do not want to try it again. But if you ask me, it definitely should articulate. Don't know about you, but I feel like they picked the exact right shade of blue for this. The gauntlets, the knee pads, everything, even these shoulder pads, you know, I can't complain. Everything looks really good. And these little design things, I can't remember what the hell they're supposed to be, but look, they're really nicely printed on these shoulders. And obviously they're meant to look all scuffed up like that, so that's just a really nice touch. It's just, I do have a slight problem with the shoulder pads themselves though. And the way they've done these is just sort of like a big flap that sticks out from the torso. So it doesn't work the way a shoulder pad should work. They end up just sticking out. And of course, you know, if you want to move the arms forward, then they don't move with the shoulder. They're not in the right position there. And I'd find that really annoying. And if you whack her arms out like this in like a T-pose, then eventually when you put them down, they're just going to stay stuck out like that. I mean, obviously this didn't stay there very long, but the longer you leave it there, it's going to stay there longer, and that's just... They have better ways of doing this. The belt is this sort of like maroonish, almost purpley brown colour, which is not quite right if you ask me. And then, I don't know if this is just mine, but the weird armour piece that comes down underneath is all chewed up and wiggly. If it's meant to be like that, then cool, but I don't get it. Again, the blue colour that they chose for all the armour pieces, like the shin pads and the knee pads, couldn't have done much of a better job of it, although I do sort of remember the 6-inch one having some more kind of silvery scratches. That would have been nice. Same up on the wrist gauntlets and whatever you call those pieces on the back of the hand. At least the weird sort of... I've always called it a little rocket launcher. Is it a rocket? Whatever that is on the wrist is at least painted in a really nice shiny silver to make it stand out. And they did even go the extra mile of painting the metallic grey colour onto these metal pieces on her thighs, which, you know, they didn't really have to do, because 90% of the time they are covered up by the holsters. I'm not saying I wanted them to not paint it, but I wouldn't have been surprised if they didn't. The annoying thing for me though is they decided to put this thigh swivel straight through the middle. I just ended up spending most of my time trying to straighten out. I suppose the other negative thing that's worth mentioning is the proportions on this. Mostly they're fine, you know, I mean it looks like a human being, but look at them arms, man. It looks like Mr. Tickle. They are so damn long. And I don't know if it's like an illusion, but the knee pads seem to be really low as well, which means that the bottom part of the legs just look really short. Is it just me seeing this? I mean, as an artist, I've had to study anatomy. I know it really well. So when there's just these tiny things where even though it's pretty close, it just throws me off. Back to some positives though, this jetpack is really nicely sculpted. Look at that, it looks exactly like what it's supposed to be. I love this kind of shiny silver that they've got that isn't super reflective, but it's brighter than that gunmetal on the chest plate or whatever, so that's nice. And then a few little touches of blue paint, just add a little bit of design to it, you know, make it less boring. Why is it though that all the female Mandalorians end up with a smaller jetpack? What difference does it make? Sexism. But for what it is really well done. And luckily, it is actually removable. You just sort of give it a quick pull and there you go, it comes straight out. I mean, obviously it attaches with this giant peg that just goes straight into her back, so she's left with a giant gaping hole. But if you can ignore that, then she does still at least look pretty cool without it. Just, you know, there it is. And she comes with two of these teeny tiny little versions of the Mandalorian blasters. Obviously at this scale, the sculpt is a bit soft, but you know, it's all there, you can see what they are. And at least they have painted the handles brown, that's nice, they could have just left that. But obviously with painted handles, you might have to look out for a bit of paint rub. They fit in the hands pretty nicely, with it being sort of a thinner design, they're kind of a bit bendy, so you might have to wiggle them around a bit and wrestle them in. But once they are in, they look pretty nice, and I don't think they're going anywhere. Let's see. And of course, they do fit in the holsters on a belt, and to be honest, they do fit really quite nicely. Sometimes at this scale, guns just fly out all over the place, but this side seems to be a bit stiffer for some reason. Yeah, it's not my imagination, it's not going in quite as far as that one, but whatever, that's nitpicky, it does at least fit. It's a nice option to have, because when the guns are this small, man are they easy to lose. And with them being a nice tight fit like that, then I'm pretty sure they're going to pass the shake test. And then the last accessory she comes with is an alternate unhelmeted head. So we'll just pop this one off, and there's a headless woman for all you Jeffrey Dahmers out there. Now this is by far one of the best head sculpts they've ever done. This looks exactly like her. Even the 6-inch version, which I still thought was really good, looked more like, what's her name? The Red Woman from Game of Thrones, if you ask me, where this one, I don't think they could have done any better, to be honest. It's honestly really impressive how they do such really soft facial features printed like that at this scale. The hair, I could have maybe done with a bit of a wash as it's all just one chunk of orange plastic, but just natural lighting gives it a nice bit of shading. And again, I really like that silver colour they chose for a headband tiara thing. Honestly, I'm more of a fan of just like a removable helmet. I like the option of just being able to take them on and off whenever I feel like. It is weird, right, that both heads have got their own peg? Why not just have the one that stays in the neck? I mean, what do I know, but surely that's just a waste of plastic, right? And you see what I mean about the helmet being sort of squished and pinched up next to each other like this? You can tell there's no way that head would fit in that helmet. Yeah, I know I seem to be the sort of minority on this, but I definitely just would have preferred that with a removable helmet. I mean, when it's interchangeable like this, I end up just finding which one I prefer, and then the other one goes in a box somewhere, and I never change them again, so it's nice to be able to just take it on and off whenever I feel like it, you know? Luckily, that peg doesn't stick too far out the bottom of the helmet, so you can still have a pose like she's holding it. This is always a cool option to have. All in all, yeah, I'm very happy to have this figure, and now it's time to go and have a look at the other two bastards. On the left there in the blue is the Mandalorian Deathwatch Airborne Trooper, and in the red there we got the Mandalorian Super Commando, or you know, some people call them the Mandalorians. Isn't that a fun nickname? No, it's stupid. And as I mentioned before, they are basically the same figure, like 99% all reused parts between the two, which, you know, for the most part makes sense. But there is enough little differences between them that it's interesting enough to have a look at them both separately rather than just going, you know, here's a blue one, here's a red one. So I think we'll start off with the red one. Alright, starting off straight away with a nitpick, and it's not specific to these, it's all these modern vintage collection figures. The hole for the peg underneath the feet is too fucking shallow, man. I mean, look at that, it barely even accommodates a peg from any kind of stand in it. I mean, it's just useless. And with those tiny feet, they're not great at standing on their own either, so... Oh, and in case you're wondering, all these stands that I use are just little acrylic stands that I bought off eBay from someone called Action Figure Essentials. Type that into eBay, you'll definitely just find it straight away, and they are really, really good stands when they actually fit in the goddamn figure. I mean, look at that. He's just hovering above it, just... Right, enough moaning. Let's get happy, which is easy because the sculpt on these figures is absolutely perfect. I really can't think of any way that they could have improved this at all. There is 6-inch Black Series versions of these too, and for some reason they've all got like really square, boxy proportions, and they're like really short and fat with really tiny little legs, and they don't look good at all. Whereas this guy, I mean, look, he's got a really nice jetpack, and the hell is that on his helmet? But yeah, I mean, look at it, just overall, really, really good. Now, there is actually a second version of this, which I believe is the Super Commando Captain? Something like that, I don't know, the one with the actual horns and the helmet, and it is a really nice figure. I didn't originally want it, because it's got like this sort of brighter undersuit under it. I don't know though, like I feel like I might have to be on the lookout for that one now, because it is actually pretty cool. By far, the best thing about these two figures though is the way they painted the armor. I mean, look at that. It's so cool, it's clearly like a metallic armor piece that's been painted over it, and then loads of it scraped off. And then the bottom part of the armor, and these wrist gauntlet things, whatever you want to call them, are done in that almost a champagne-y kind of metal colour. The undersuit on this is, from a distance, it looks like black, but it's actually like a really, really dark blue. And it works really well to just set off all the coloured bits of armour in contrast. Like, I really like this design. The belt piece and this weird, like, dick flap crotch piece are actually loose, but moving it don't really make a difference. This helmet sculpt is perfect. If, like me, you've collected since like the end of the 90s, you would have seen loads of different Boba Fett figures, all with loads of attempts at the helmets, and none of them have ever been quite right. But this one, you got it. You absolutely nailed it. The shoulder pads, unfortunately, have got the same problem that Bo Katan had, where they sort of just flap out from the side of the torso. So again, you know, if you move the arms out to the side or anything, and then you put them down again, they're just going to get stuck like that. And they don't move forward either, and just... whatever. I've already said that they're crap. Back to the glory that is this helmet. I mean, I know I was literally just gushing over this like 5 seconds ago, but come on, it's perfect. I think after having many Boba Fett figures and even Jango Fett where it just doesn't quite look like what it's supposed to be, when you finally get it right, it just, oh, it makes me happy. And then the paint is also really well done. That hand going down the front sort of reminds me of like the white hand of Saruman, if you know that reference. It's like in my head, like Maul has gone round and touched every one of the helmets individually. And I really think that's cool. The sculpt on these jetpacks is really nice, you know, the big, manly jetpacks, unlike Bo Katan's. But yeah, it looks exactly like what it's meant to be. It's maybe a little bit bland, because it's just done in this sort of grey plastic. But I've not seen any of these episodes of these in for a while, so I can't remember if it's supposed to be super silvery or what. But at least those red lines add a little bit of colour to it. And these are removable too, you just give them a little pull. They're not in there too tight. Don't look like a weird, really upset face on his back. Am I the only one seeing that? Alright, Blue Ranger's turn now, let's have a look at him. And again, like I pointed out, it is mostly the same figure, but there's enough little bits here that are quite interesting. Again, the main thing is this armour. It's painted so well to look all scuffed up and damaged. And it's got the little symbol on his chest there. I presume that's the airborne thing or whatever, but it's nicely done. And then all the way down here to the crotch piece, his knee pads, his shins. Again, they've done a really good job of making it all look like it is made out of metal. The wrist gauntlet on this side is just done in that sort of bare metallic colour, which is actually really nice. It stands out against all that blue. And side by side like this, you can actually see they don't have the same gauntlets. The red ones is more just sort of plain, where this guy has got the one with all the tubes and whatever. I always thought that was for like his flamethrower. And then the other sides are pretty similar. He's got this emblem printed really nicely on that shoulder pad on this side. Again, kind of scuffed up like it's been through a bit of damage, but it's nice. Nothing on the other side, that one's just plain, but again, a really nice shade of blue. The helmet is the same sculpt as the red guy, so we already know how good that is, but this one's actually got the rangefinder added on the side, which just, makes it even better. And unlike Bo Katan, this one is actually articulated. Look at that! Why couldn't they just done it on hers? Every Mandalorian with a rangefinder should be articulated. It's a very well painted helmet too. I really like this blue that they chose and all that bright silver. There is a little bit here that's supposed to look like silver scuffing that's kind of bled onto the visor. I could maybe fix that with a tiny paintbrush, but too lazy for that. And he's got these little orange details printed just above the visor, which are pretty cool. I don't know what they're meant to be, but the blue and the orange like that just reminds me of like the logo from Greggs. If you're from England, you know what I mean. Same sculpt for the jetpack, and unfortunately, it's still done in this flat grey plastic. There is at least some blue details on this that are different from the red one, so there you go. I mean, I think this looks pretty cool. I think I said on the other one that they're not too tight. I mean, they're tight enough to not just fall out, but they're also not so tight you can't just pull them out, so there you go. It's nice to have it removable. even though he's got a giant hole in his spine. The peg from the neck of these just goes straight up into the helmet. There's no head underneath there. And I do know that if you pull it, it does start coming out. And I know from experience, you don't want to pull it too much because that happens. What a weird way of assembling this figure. I mean, yeah. Alright, luckily it goes back together easy enough. You just sort of got to line up the shoulder pads with the holes left in his torso. Just squeeze it back on. Maybe a little dab of super glue under there might just do the trick, but it's fine as it is for now. And then the neck has just got this massive kind of squarish peg just sticking out the bottom. I've never seen any figure put together like that before. And then it's a simple job of just shoving it back in. Oh, it's a bit stiff, but there you go, once it's in. It's all fine again. Yay. So these two both come with a rifle version of that Mandalorian blaster. And this is quite funny because as a Black Series collector as well, it's basically the exact same thing as the 6-inch version of the pistols. And as you can see, it's a little bit bent because it's very thin and he does not hold it too well. Yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle. Like you can sort of get it in one hand at a time, and then, yeah, it's sort of the hand where the handle is. I mean, looking from the front, it looks close enough, but clearly it's not actually in his hand there. It's close enough, I suppose, but, you know, it could definitely be better. And of course, they both have a set of the pistols, which are really tight in that holster there. It's nice, you know, it's not exactly the same as Bo Katan's gun. It's a bigger sculpt at least. Missing any paint on the handles though. These though are very thin, so they really don't fit in the hands. Especially if he's been holding the bigger gun for a while and the fingers get kind of stretched out a little bit. Yeah, I mean, you can get it in the hand, but he's not exactly holding that very tight at all. It looks close enough to do the job, but yeah, there you go. If you wiggle it into a really specific position, then technically the definition of holding it, but it's going to be loose. So again, everything has its flaws, and I think these two, the downfall is mostly the weapons. But other than that, I really like these. If you were so inclined, then they're really good to army build, loads of them, especially this red guy, have them all standing behind Maul. That'd be pretty damn cool, but unfortunately, I don't really have the space for massive army building. Looking at these two together now like this, I'm still back and forth on which one I prefer. I mean, I like them both, but trying to come up with a favourite, I can't do it. It's like deciding which of your children you love more. So we've got the Super Commando with the Clone Wars Darth Maul, and these two, just look at how cool they look together. It definitely helps the fact that this is probably the best Darth Maul figure there is. It's just such a nice sculpt on this, and again, the 6-inch version of this is also just really good. Definitely recommend picking this up if you can, especially to go along with all these Mandalorian figures. And then we've got the Deathwatch Mando here with the ARC Trooper Echo. I mostly put these two together because of the blue designs, and this is just a really cool figure of Echo anyway. But there's one thing that I really wanted to point out with this figure, and that is his removable helmet. This is just really to show how easily it could be done, because look, the sculpt on this is perfect. Pop, there you go, comes off. There's a nice Tim Morrison head sculpt under there. The helmet isn't too massively oversized to accommodate the head, and there's still even space for the mechanism to articulate the rangefinder. This is just so much better than an interchangeable head. I can't be the only person that thinks that. And for some female Mandalorians, here's Bo Katan with the 6-inch Sabine Wren, both with their helmets off. And then here's both of them with their helmets back on again, and I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. This Sabine is a really nice figure, and a big part of that is removable helmet. Look, off, on, off, on. Oh, so easy, and it looks good. Come on! There's the OG, the Black Series Boba Fett. I don't actually have any 3 3/4 Boba Fett figures at the moment. I think I'd probably be after a Return of the Jedi one, but man, have you seen the price of that vintage collection figure? Jeez, it's almost like he's a popular character or something. Alright, so here's all three of them back together again, and as I've clearly stated through this, I genuinely really like all of these, despite the odd flaw here and there. It'd be nice if those things got fixed, but like I keep saying, no figure is perfect. So don't forget to like this video, drop us a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Slowly building up a nice back catalogue of videos here, so there's plenty of stuff for people to check out. I had noticed that I've done a lot of 3 3/4 Star Wars and haven't filmed much Black Series stuff for a while, so you never know, maybe that might be something I might have to do more of in the future. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers!